Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fintech Combine. I am your host, Kris Kovacs, and this is the series where we talk with and sometimes about community-based institutions, the digital and business transformation projects they are undertaking, and the innovators, entrepreneurs, and fintechs that make it all possible. On this episode, we're meeting with a very good friend of mine, Anne Legg, who is the founder of Thrive Strategic Services and the author of Big Data, Big Climb. So if you're ready, let's suit up and get out on the field. Miss Anne Legg, it is so good to see you. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and what got you to start Thrive?
Oh, what a good story. And hello, it is so good to see you. Quick hot minute. It does look a little bit like I'm in a jail. We'll talk about why I am not in a jail. What I am in is in a meeting room in the Des Moines airport, because if you all are going through Des Moines, there are no lounges. Not one,
Oh,
not zero.
interesting.
So it's a bit of a
But
lounge
there are
desert.
jail cells.
But you have, no, this is a meeting room. This is a legit meeting room, but it does it not look like I'm in jail?
A skosh.
It's that opportunity.
Do you need bail money, Anne? Is that what you're telling me?
Maybe, but we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, how the heck did I get to a jail cell? I'm in a meeting room in the Des Moines airport. How did I get there? And how did I get involved in data? Well, it really all goes back to a long time ago. I'm in my third plus decade of this industry. I was totally hit by the bug. I was like, wait, what do we do? How do we do it? And I actually came in from the MCIF side, so Marketing Customer Information File, which is all that goodness on how do we understand our members, how do we segment, target, yada, yada. That led me into working for a credit union, which I ended up working for a variety of credit unions for about 17 years. That led me to saying, hey, there's a lot of cool stuff we can do, especially when you get in there and nerd out on the core and like figure out how to program. And you're like, hold on, I just made a dashboard that told us how we have to understand the journey and where we're going, which then led me into consulting with a sidestep into, I went and got an MBA, which we had to do a really cool big project. So I said, let's put it around how do we leverage data to improve members' lives? That ended up in front of a whole lot of cool people, both domestically and internationally. That's pretty sweet. International Cooperative Summit. That led me to a fun gig to where Fiserv. I got to be in this amazing opportunity to understand not only cores, 13 of them to be exact at that time point, but also understand how that whole system and that ecosystem of cores and mobile and online banking and everything under the sun comes together, not only on the credit union side, but on the banking side. And that was an amazing university. I mean, literally, that was just like, I don't know if that's a PhD level or what that is, but it was phenomenal. And that was the moment I realized the biggest pain point was, hey, I have to do something with my data, but I don't know where to start. And that is where we had the whole really ideation on, hey, how could I, with this experience, help credit unions do that? And that's how Thrive was started.
Excellent. So which came first? Did you found Thrive first or did you write your book first?
Oh, what a great question. Okay, so Thrive kind of had a couple iterations, as all organizations do. And the first one was, well, if credit unions need to figure out their why, well, then I'm just going to come in and help advise, right? Well, then it was kind of fun. I was doing a really good job cultivating credit unions to figure out what they were doing. And then at the time, what's now known as TrueStage had come in with building up their own data warehouse, and they were calling it Advantage Analytics. So they hired me and basically acquired Thrive to say, hey, help do that, but I got to keep the name. As all those things move and gyrate again, it turns out that, you know what, they decided to pivot out of that opportunity. And I got a gift of saying, ooh, for a hot minute, what does Anne Legg want to do? So, of course, what I did was like, let's go climb the tallest freestanding mountain, Kilimanjaro, because that's what one does when one has a free moment.
Yeah,
Anywho.
I mean, you go to Africa and climb a mountain. Everybody does that.
Yeah, right, because that's normal. That's so not normal. But anyways, that's what I did. So it was altitude. As I'm climbing along and it's getting thinner and thinner, you keep thinking about all the cool stuff in your head and you have really amazing thoughts because you're just hanging out on a mountain and whatever. And my amazing thought was, everybody's asked me, where's the book on this? How do you do what you do? And I thought, oh my goodness, well, 30 plus years experience, a lot of this, a lot of that. And then I was like, well, I'm on this mountain for 8 days. So why don't I start just drafting it? So I'm walking along, hiking along, making sure I don't die. And that's what I started thinking about. And here's where it gets crazy, Kris. I had a 30-hour travel back from Africa to go all the way back to San Diego, where I'm based out of. And I had this wonderful opportunity of being in a very beautiful airport lounge. By the way, if you're ever stopping through Amsterdam and you're on Delta, go do it, because they have like night rooms and like videos and TV, and it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I drafted the entire outline of the book, and I proceeded to write it and published it within 6 months, of my summit.
Wow.
Nuts, right? And wait, what's the name of the book? Big Data, Big Climb. Just bringing it all together, everybody. Just bringing it all together, because it is
Bringing it all together.
Just summiting that mountain is just like summiting all that gorgeous data. And that's exactly what the book talks about. We use that metaphor. We rock that metaphor, if I may say. Oh, I forgot one other thing about the book. Sorry, this is just, you know what? I got to get out of this jail cell. Check this out. Check this out. No, legit. Okay, because I think it's a little like I need more colors or something. It's a little gray, right?
Yeah.
But okay, I'm gonna bring my own sunshine. So check this out. You write a book. You're like, that's cool. Then you end up launching an education vertical. Talk about that in a hot minute. But my book is in our industry's museum. My book is in a museum. It's in our industry museum, and it's not only in our industry's museum. It's in our industry museum's research library. Okay, I think that is super crazy. Like there should be.
That is crazy. That is cool.
Yeah. Right. Anyways, sorry. I got a little excited about that one.
Well, it's a testament. It's a testament to what you put into it, right? Because I mean, there's plenty of people who have books out there, but few of them have found the legs that yours has, right? I mean, just from launching your educational series to being in the museum, and I mean, it is the basis for which you do your consulting and coaching now. Is that correct?
That is 100%. So that brings us to present day, which is okay. What exactly does Thrive do? Well, we really look at credit unions and say, hey, let's help this big problem. Let's help educate you on what you need to know about your data. Sweet. When we educate you, then what can happen? You can accelerate. And when you accelerate, you can elevate. And we are all in on circling around how you do that for the member and improve the member's life.
How do you start with that, Anne? Are you talking to executives? Are you talking to analysts? Are you talking to experienced data people who just maybe don't know enough about credit unions yet? What's the target audience for your book and for your training programs?
Yeah, it's called the Data Activation Series, and it is the only data activation series in our industry that actually has CPE accreditation. Let's just talk about your pandemic project on that. All right, you guys, CPE accreditation. We are accredited by the National Accounting Board Standards. That's what I'm talking about. Anywho, who's the target? Okay, anybody who's trying to figure it out, because the way that class is taught, it is scalable to wherever you are on this journey. So the answer is literally yes. We have the C-suite, we have the analysts, and we have a lot of people who come in and are like, I am new. I'm coming from either a tech space or something else, and I'm new to this, and I really need to understand. Because the end goal of the class, the whole data activation series, is you are building a one-page roadmap that is going to launch your absolute journey, and you're going to be able to socialize from it. So it's truly that whole foundational early step of saying, this is what I think we can do and how we do it and who we do it with, and all that good stuff.
So are you developing a hypothesis? Is that the idea? Like they're developing a hypothesis about how to use data, and that then guides them to how to, and you could then coach them on how to access it and exercise and experiment on that hypothesis?
No, that's what we do in advisory. But let's go back to class. So in class, let's just talk about class for a minute, right? I'm coming to you and I'm like, I'm all over this journey. I may be 29 billion. And I'm not kidding, I had the same people in a class, and I may have 3 people in my credit union. Every time that woman showed up, their whole entire staff was down 33.3%.
Yep.
Awesome.
Imagine.
Okay, right? So what do we need to make sure you have a beautiful foundation to understand that all this goodness of data, right? Number one, you got to figure out what your why is. So we've got to really understand what a data strategy is. What are the components? What are the vision? What's your why? How do we do that? Secondly, we got to really figure out what that use case is. Now, I know from my friends here listening, they're like, I get use case. But for friends who are like, I have no idea what you're talking about, let's talk about the member. We have to solve the member's problem. We have to figure out what data we need to solve the member's problem. So we want to articulate that as member friction. So member comes to you, credit union, right? And literally have 4 problems. That's it. They're like, yo, credit union, solve my transportation, my shelter, my travel and play, and my rainy day and retirement problem. Please, not all at the same time, but help me with that. So we have to figure out what are those frictions that happen as that we're doing that for the member, get in that data and figure out how to solve it. All right. But we're not done, man. That's like awesome and great. And everybody's like, oh, we go now. You're like, no. You got to stop for a second, because you cannot do that unless you got clean data. I don't mean dirty data. I don't mean washing your data. I mean, you have to understand how to govern your data. So we need to take that beautiful use case, that member problem, that member friction, and figure out how to build out some foundational data governance. And if we're doing there, well, we got to be talking about maturity. So we have to figure out, where does maturity lie in this? Where does your organization start on this? Which then leads us into, hey, the whole gorgeousness of literacy. The biggest challenge we have is that we think data is just sitting in the IT department. We're like, you deal with that. We all know data is an enterprise play.
Right.
And our lovely, beautiful friends in technology are like, hey, I'm just one team member here. I'm not here to row the whole boat by myself. Everybody get in the boat. We're all going, let's just figure out where, right? So we have to understand literacy. So we have to build out the competency. And that's going to be part culture, part capability. So I have to figure out what the heck that looks like. And then you're like, wow, aren't we done yet? No, because what is the ultimate destination of data? It is workplace adoption. We want to move, we want to change, because if we have data, we want to be able to harness it, we want to be able to get insights, and we want to be able to take action. So the last pass on this is, what exactly does workplace adoption look like? What does the operational structure of data should be in my credit union? Okay, and I'm not saying, oh, well, that's in the tech department. No, you need to have your data inside your credit union where people can pull off of it, because guess what? You're making froyo, everybody. You want to be able to self-serve that gorgeous data as if you could self-serve that gorgeous froyo. So where's it going to live? We've got to figure out where it's going to live, because what the heck are we doing with this data? Big picture. We are trying to operationalize it, productize it, ding, 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 monetize it. We are trying to create return on data, okay? So all those things have to happen in the class, which they do. And then I've got to say, that's a lot. How am I going to get people in the room if I'm not already in the room with my C-suite? How do I get the people in the room excited about it? That's our roadmap. Your roadmap has to be one-page short-term roadmap, strategic roadmap that says, what's my why? What's my member focus? How am I going to do the beautiful maturity piece? And how am I going to make sure I have workplace adoption and build literacy? A lot.
I'll say, what are the similarities of the credit unions who are most successful using your program to enhance their culture around data usage, data governance, and data maintenance?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we see two things. So remember, what's cool about Thrive is we have the whole education vertical. So we get you up and started, and off you get to go. And then there'll be times that perhaps you'll say, hey, let's do it together. We partner and we advise and we figure out how to build up the strategy and all that goodness we talked about, right? So in the classes, where I've seen a lot of wonderful success, if we get many different participants from the same credit union. I have had the wonderful opportunity of seeing an entire C-suite go through it. And then we get
together
at the same time. And what's fun about that is there's obviously assignments. They're very manageable, but I'm not going to say just build out a roadmap. I'm going to walk you through it. But when they start doing it, the first thing we do is we say assess. We have a very easy assessment, right? Assessing on those key areas. And it's super fun because you get your leadership team in the room and you're like, hey, so are we data literate or not? Let's score ourselves. And then you look at that, whole picture and you're like, oh, that's insightful. All right, so those people who come in with many in the coursework in the education space are very much ready to already be actionable education, which is what it should be, right? We also get those people who are curious and are ready to learn. Because if you walk into a class and you're like, I already know it all, why are you in that class? So we want to have people who are ready to be open and to be learned, and then also to be ready to take action. So that's the classwork. In it, kind of in an advisory role, where we see a lot of success is where a credit union acknowledges that they do have a lot of opportunity, and that they also have, number one, that not only do they have a lot of opportunity, but they're also going to be very good about being very incremental in what they do. Because as I said, to be successful in data, you've got to be able to say, hey, I get it. So I got to have some quick proof points, which is why we talk about our member friction. But also I have to say, hey, not only do I get it, but can you make that happen kind of quick? Because it's got to be a learning piece. So if we go very, very incremental, we're going to be like, well, that might feel like really light. For example, hey, I just want to understand why there is a wait line in my drive-through. You're like, that doesn't feel earth-shattering. No, it doesn't have to be. But let's find out what that data is. Let's figure out how we fix it. There's a lot to unpack that. And if you're bringing the right people in the room to do that, and you do that once, then you can add on something a little more complex the next time. But you got to start very incrementally. That's where success happens. If you're like, I'm going to go build this amazing solution and I'm going to have all my data field mapped, good luck to that. Call me when you're done.
Do you recommend particular solutions? Because it seems to me you're more training on mindset, right? On mindset, understanding, approach, right? that could be applicable to any number of solutions that, because sometimes when credit unions think about capabilities, we jump to solutions, right? I got to go buy a tool to do this. And what you're starting with is no, let's start with the problem and then let's figure out how we solve the problem. So how do you work with the variety of tool sets and analytics packages that are out there?
So that's actually a super fun area for me, because then I feel like I'm shopping. I'm like, what are you looking for? What's going to fit well on you? Where are you? But before you can ever go and enter the retail space, if you will, you really need to understand a couple of things. Number one, what's my assessment? Where do I want to go? Right. So I've got to have at least a roadmap, because I, at the credit union, have to direct my pathway. I should never be buying a solution and let solution driving my strategy. I drive my strategy. I know it best. I create it. So we want that position first, right? So I can lead strategy. And when I'm leading strategy, I'm definitely saying, what's my why, what's my use case, and what's the problem I'm trying to solve. Now, from a solution perspective, boy, man, I could just be shopping for days and weeks and hours, especially if you're like, hey, open credit card, you do what you want to do. But for a credit union,
25% off if you open a credit card.
Right. Hello. But for a credit union, honestly, here's the first place I want a credit union to start. I want you to think about, what is that member friction? Try to build it on consensus. That could be its own journey. But when you have that, I want you to look at that friction, and it should meet 2 criteria. Criteria number 1 is, if we choose this friction we want to solve, it's going to meet the widest amount of members we possibly can. With the second criteria is that we can do it with the time, talent, and tech we already have. Now, why are we trying to use our existing tools? Because we don't know what we have. We don't. We have a lot of cool stuff. We have a lot of overlap. There's a lot of duplicity. And when you pick something like this and then you get to see it, you're like, oh, if we can do it here, then we know we're going to need X there. And now, again, as I'm going shopping, I'm not just saying, oh, I want a white blouse. I'm saying, I want a white blouse. Kate Spade, 75% off, should be size this, should be really cute, should be do that, and I will never need to iron you. That's very different from saying, I need a white blouse.
Right. How diverse are the type of problems credit unions are trying to solve? Or are credit unions coming in today and 55% are saying, I need deposits?
Oh my goodness. Okay. It is. Okay. This is so much fun. So in friction, when you ask them, they're just like, look, like, best case scenario, we're going to survey all of your staff. Okay. So we worked with the credit union. We literally surveyed about 300 people. And we're like, what's the number one friction the member is doing business with you? Oh, it's fantastic what you come up with, okay? But the magic in there is word clouding that puppy, because it's not going to necessarily be that. It's going to be the other pains. So some of the pains that we come up with are things that are like just things you wouldn't really think about, but are really, really impactful. Like, how do we deliver member financial wellness with a new platform? Boom, that's huge. How do we create talent, knowledge, proficiency using our internally sourced policies? I mean, that just sounds like a whole host of rat's nests, right? More importantly, how do we deliver the best member experience in person and electronic? Those are those beautiful nuggets that fit that whole box, right, of time, talent, and technology, but also getting the member. In that, I have cross-functional teams of a lot of different pieces, because I'm going to have to even take that and put that through the strainer again. Because those are huge, right?
Those are big problems. I mean, big opportunities, one of the two.
Right. They're wonderful, wonderful shopping journeys, okay? But what we're talking about is, if that's where I want to go, what is that little nugget that I can start with now? So, for example, delivering member financial wellness, hey, that's going to be denied borrowers. Let's already look at the people that we've denied. How do we figure out how we help them? Right. Now, notice how we did that. Teeny, right? And that's still big, because we've got to figure out what we're going to do with our denials. What can we do with them? How can we make them grow? How do we get to use that as a segment? There's a lot already in there, but I do that. Then what do? I get to add on. And guess what's happening? Change is happening. Things are happening. We're changing. It's so cool. We're actually using our data. We're using our data. See, this is how I get out of jail. Just gotta sing.
You're going to sing and dance?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was both, wasn't it? I
don't think it worked for Elvis.
No, fudge. Okay, well, I'm not going to shake my hips like that, because that's just not going to
work. There you go. So, what you're saying resonates with me, not just from the perspective of a credit union, though. Like, I really feel like you could work with fintechs and do the very same thing, could you not? And do you? I guess is part of the
Well,
question.
that's a wonderful, wonderful question. So I have recently had the opportunity, and I should say Thrive has, to be able to do that, because what's slightly different about a fintech is many times we have gorgeously talented people who,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
That was not intended for me.
Anywho, gorgeously talented, okay, who, unlike you, do not have maybe that understanding of the vernacular or understanding how credit unions are
Sure.
a very special
Yep.
mission-based financial institution. So
Right.
to be able to bring out and pull out for a fintech, what are the things you need to be doing, right? Like what's the language? How do you identify a member problem? How do you even know what a member is? All of that goodness. It's been a lot of fun, because this year in 2024, we've been able to find that, oh, that's a really great sweet spot
Mhm.
for fintechs to really fill out that whole industry knowledge part and really build up, and this is important for fintechs, the translation skills. Because they know the tool, they got to figure out the translation. And
Right.
yes, we have a wonderful way of helping to do that as well. It's kind of neat.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So how many, I want to go talk a little bit about your data activation education program again. Like, how many folks are you talking to? Do you do a credit union by credit union? Do you do like classes somewhere? How does somebody get into your data activation program?
So a couple of quick ways. First of all, you can totally find it on the website. And of course, we all know that's AnneLegg.thrive.com. But we also have a wonderful relationship with a really significant number of leagues across the United States. So hit up your training section of your league, and if not, let me help you out, because they're also giving discounts. And so you can find it that way. We offer 5 classes a year, and in each class we have around 20 students or so, sometimes a little bit longer. If we have more than that, we obviously will break it up into different sections, just like you would at a standard university. Right now we just entered year 4, and we are closing in on nearly 400 students.
Wow.
So
That's amazing.
a lot of people are getting in on it and making sure they're happening. So you can find it again directly. Let me also make sure too, because I've heard this most recently. A credit union came to me and they're like, "Look, I need to get my whole leadership team through that, but we're doing everything times yesterday, and there might be some googly eyes." I'm like, "I feel you." So what we've been able to do for certain credit unions, of course, it depends on the number and what they're doing, but we've been able to actually spin up some really great self-service programs. So we're like, hey, if you can't do this, and if you're not in for the accreditation, I can spin this up for you so that you can get to it when you need to get to it and how you need to get to it. And that also has been very successful.
Who makes the best analysts? Like, what backgrounds of people make the best analysts at a credit union?
You know what? I actually was reading about this because I am that big of a nerd, and it was a study from MIT. And the biggest thing that MIT wants you to have is not that big old score, is not that big old, whatever nerd face that you put in there, right? What they want you to have is 2 things. You got to be very, very curious, and you got to be able to communicate.
Yeah.
If you cannot explain what the heck you're doing and why you're doing it and for what, for, and whom, and most importantly, why the person you're having the conversation will benefit from it, what's in it for them, you're going to be a great analyst, but boy, you're not going to be able to communicate anything. You're going to need a translator. And I don't mean that like in language, but I mean that in culture. And sometimes we do find ourselves with some gorgeous, fabulous analysts, and we do literally have to find people to translate for them. But what MIT is really looking for is like, we know you're going to cut your teeth brilliantly and magically, but we need you to be able to also communicate.
Yeah, no, that's
Storytell.
important. That's important. Yeah, I think that's consistent with your experience, right? Because you've been an amazing storyteller, hence the book, right? About the journey and about being able to do that. And I think you need somebody to be able to represent that capability inside the organization. And if they're a super smart analyst who can't leave the closet, then you know what I mean? It's not going to be effective for the institution in the long run.
No, it's not, because there's a couple things in here. And it's funny, I was just leading a session, which is why I'm in Des Moines, with the Iowa
In
Credit Union
jail.
League in jail. Iowa doesn't need to know about that. But anywho, does it not? Like, what is that? Anyways, okay.
Wonderful.
So I know it is. Makes me stand out, whatever. So we're there at the Iowa Credit Union League. And one of the big questions was, well, how do I know how to ask for data? I'm like, oh, right. Okay, so let's go there for a minute, right? You have this gorgeous analyst who's like, I have everything you need in possibly what's behind that box to make amazing whatever you want. I have it.
Right.
What do you want? And then they're like, well, you're not asking, so I'm just gonna make you chocolate cake because I think I like chocolate cake. So I give you chocolate cake, right? Now, I am the receiving end of that chocolate cake. I never asked for it. I know you have to give me something, so you give me chocolate cake. Unfortunately, sometimes when you give me chocolate cake, it's almost kind of like you came really close and then you sort of just like barfed on me with it. So I'm like, I got chocolate cake everywhere. And I am just like, dude, I don't even like chocolate. Okay, that's a lie. I love it. But I was like, what? And then my fabulous analyst is like, you haven't asked for anything. I gave you what I thought you would love, which is chocolate cake. And now you're just telling me that it's not what I want. And I really don't know what to do. And I'm like, I don't know. I got to go take a shower, right? So we got to find the spot in the middle, all right? And that spot in the middle has to be, look, I see there's a member problem. Let's go back to that early one, right? Hey, what is the hold time? What is the hold time on our call center? What is the hold time?
Can we agree on what that number is, right?
Where we find it and who has it. And if I have it, what does that target look like? Like what's age, where do they come from, how close are they to home? And what about some other good stuff like maybe what are the products and services they have? Oh, and by the way, what are they doing when they come to the call center or through the drive-through? Now, as that beautiful data analyst, I'm like, gosh, I needed to make you a little bit more of a veggie platter with hummus. I got you. And now said recipients like, ooh, I'll take all of that, but ditch the cucumbers. Are we good with that?
Yeah.
And you're like, cucumbers gone. So it's this whole, it's the truth. It's this whole piece where we aren't thinking about how to talk about it. And so we have to come up with vernacular that's very common. And snap, lucky for us, we have it, which is the member. We can all talk about the member. We can all talk about the member and the member's problems. And especially who that member is, where they live, what channels do they like to use, how do they like to be communicated to? Now we're bringing it together. And you're right. If I can't do that, it's not effective.
Yeah. So you've trained a total of 400 people, or you're doing 400 this year?
We just finished a class before this March class. Let's see, March class will bring us up to 388.
Okay. Total trained across the industry.
Total participants who've taken the data activation series and who've gone through in completion.
What's your goal for that? What does success look like for you in Thrive?
Oh my gosh. Well, world domination from the credit union perspective, but details.
Of course.
I mean, you got to put some goals out there.
Yeah.
For Thrive, what we really, really want, our big mission is literally to see credit unions being able to harness the most robust data they have and equally robust to their lending data to thrive. And I know that sounds cheesy, but I got to say that because at the end of the day, we are seeing all sorts of consolidation. We are seeing all sorts of change. We are seeing everything, and we have superpowers. And I don't ever want us to see us going away because we started in complete and utter chaos. We came to the United States and became amazing financial cooperatives when we were in a bit of the dark side here. And we always do amazing things when kind of have the deck stacked against us. So we have some great opportunity. And so from Thrive's perspective, we are coming up and continually working on how do we come up with new ways and new methods and new opportunities to help credit unions understand their data and leverage it to scale. And there's a lot that goes in there. We probably don't even have enough time for that.
How does a credit union know and measure their success?
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. So a couple things. Number one, credit unions are using all their standard internal looking KPIs, which is just fine. But when you think about it, we have kind of a situation, right? Because right now we're using the 5300 just as a basis point that says, I got to record all that. Does the 5300 ever say, hey, is your member's life improved? No.
Right. No.
Does it ever come out? And no, it's very internal focused, understandably so. Do you got money to keep the lights on? Get you, right? We have to understand how we're going to create return on data, which is value. But I have to do it now with not only the 5300, right? So I have to be thinking about the member satisfaction. What does a deeper relationship look like? Does that look like products and services? Does it look like balances? Does it look like credit score? I need to be looking at things, but I need to change my mindset. And I need to think about what does the member need right now and how do I know where they're needing, right? So let's talk about it in a index, in a beautiful, fantastic member impact index. Where am I going on my journey? Am I somebody who just wants to get out of Bad credit and payday lending? Yes. Maybe I'm trying to actually save for my first car, my kid's first car, my grandkid's first car. Maybe I'm trying to actually not work and retire. Whew, that's an awesome idea. Maybe that's education. Maybe it's my education. There's all these dreams out there, all these beautiful financial dreams that we have got to figure out. Are you on the pathway? And how in our progress are we doing to successfully help you there?
Gotcha.
And that's where credit unions have an amazing amount of space to start thinking about.
So, Anne, where does a credit union start on this journey?
So this is what's really neat. Wherever you are, size really doesn't matter, okay? Wherever you are on this journey, okay, I want you to be thinking about what is the members' friction doing business with you. I want you to look at your leadership team. I want you to ask them that. I want you to ask your business units, and I want you to ask your frontline that. And then I want you to look at that, and I want you to go, oh my goodness, what do I got in there? When you have identified that friction, that one member friction you're going to start with, you have a list, you got to prioritize. We already talked about the 2 criteria you need. But when you have that, I want to tell you right now, boom, you started, because now you're looking for the data. You're looking for the data to solve that. You have started your data journey. It is that simple.
Right.
But if you sit here right now and go, I need to spend more money, I need to hire more people, I need to do yada, yada, that's cool. You're just not going to get there. And you don't have time for that. Nobody has time for that. We don't have time for that. And here's why. We have a ton of members out there who so need us. So need us. Why?
Yep.
Oh my gosh, our rates are insanely fabulous wherever you may be. And most importantly, we were created to help members wherever they are in their lives. That is what that's our charter. That's what it says. And so we've got to be able to figure out how to do more of that to help our members. These are really crazy times. I believe in economy speak, banana pants is the technological term for the times we're living in. So banana pants, yes. Because why? Because it's banana pants. Because who gets rates as crazy as they are, yet spending's still so high, yet inflation, yet somehow we haven't managed to actually technically go into recession yet. Ooh, I said the word, sorry. But you know what I'm saying? Banana pants, okay? And in all of that is our members who are like, I just want to make sure that I have shelter, I have transportation, I have travel and play, however that looks like to me. And I have rainy day and retirement. And we are so here to support you and do that. But we got to do it today.
If a credit union is interested in following up with you to make contact with you about consulting or training opportunities, how should they reach out to you, Anne?
You know what? Best case to find anything is to literally go out on our website, which is Anne Legg, and got to put an E in there because I am English. That's that Brit side of me. Clearly the whole tan thing. ANNELEGG thrive.com. In there, you will find easy ways to navigate education, acceleration, or elevation. And you can also totally get to me. If you'd say that feels like way too much research, hit me on LinkedIn. I am all over LinkedIn sharing all sorts of fun ways to do this. So find me obviously at Anne Legg Thrive at LinkedIn.
Awesome. Anna, thank you so much for joining us today. It really has been great. And I know that our listeners and our viewers are really going to get a lot out of this experience and this interview. So I really do appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It has been an absolute joy. It really has. But then it is always a joy to spend time with you. So thank you.
Thank you.
This podcast is sponsored by Constellation. We're empowering community financial institutions with innovative digital solutions, powered by Fintech, driven by your roadmap. Join us as we navigate the future of digital banking together. For more information on how we can be your partner for digital transformation, visit www.constellation.coop.
What a great conversation with Anne. If you like the content of this episode, please check out our LinkedIn and audio channels for some bonus materials that we shot during the interview. Please like and subscribe on your platform of choice. Thank you very much for joining us. We will see you next time.